So hello, everyone, all of you. It's great to be chatting with you today for our listeners and viewers. I'm Heather Malyuk, a music audiologist and head of audiology for Tuned. If you have never heard of Tuned before, it's a telehealth platform geared toward what I would call true holistic hearing wellness care, whatever that looks like for you. Tuned wears a lot of hats in the hearing care industry, from being a benefit that employers can offer their employees to conducting hearing conservation programs for individuals under OSHA regulation, to meeting everyday folks and talking about their hearing care in terms of prevention of hearing loss or maybe amplification of hearing loss. We sort of do it all. We are a hub of specialists, and I believe one of the largest feathers in our cap is our collection of music audiologists. So some of whom are here with me today. So when it comes to music audiology, that is audiologists who have been trained and specialize in working with the music industry, sometimes it can be difficult to find the right provider. Over a year ago, MusiCares made the choice to partner with Tuned so that music industry professionals who wanted to speak with an audiologist could access providers like us, those who get it and are experienced with the unique needs of this population. So over the Tuned platform, MusiCares members can have a full 3-part hearing screening, which happens to be one of the most thorough and validated in existence currently. They can meet with one of us music audiologists to discuss any needs from hearing loss prevention education to hearing disorder management, like disorders such as tinnitus, ringing in the ears, and even assistance getting hearing aids if they're needed. All ages, all needs, and all walks of life are welcome within our special partnership. So today, I'd like to introduce all of the listeners to a few audiologists who have been with us since the very beginning. I'm going to have each audiologist just introduce yourself. I already mentioned my name is Heather Malyuk. What I did not mention is I also run a private practice called Soundcheck Audiology, and I'm located in Northeast Ohio, specifically Cuyahoga Falls. I used to travel a lot on site to venues, but I am in mom mode right now. And so I might go back to that one day, but right now I'm enjoying telehealth quite a bit. So Shannon, would you mind just introducing yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Dr. Shannon Switzer. I'm the director of the Musicians Hearing Clinic at Sensophonics, which is located in Chicago. We are the only in-ear monitor and pro audio company that's completely dedicated to hearing conservation in the music industry. So I see patients here on site in our Musicians Hearing Clinic next to the lab. I'll also go do venue calls around the city. And when I'm not at Sensophonics, I'm seeing MusiCares patients on Tuned from all over the country. I think I'm up to 30 different states, which is pretty exciting.
That's really cool. Thank you. Lisa, you want to go next?
Sure. So I'm Lisa Tannenbaum. I started my practice, Musicians Hearing Services, 30 years ago. I'm happy to say that I'm still out here doing what I love. When I started in this niche of audiology, I didn't say I was a music audiologist. We didn't have a word for it. I'd say, oh, I'm an audiologist with this weird little niche in the music industry, and I promote hearing protection and hearing conservation and education with musicians, and people really didn't even know what that meant. And all these years later, I'm still learning what that means. I'm learning so much from the younger people on this panel, and I still have an office in San Francisco and in LA. But I live in San Luis Obispo on the central coast of California, and I'm still seeing patients north and south. And I'm really looking forward to spending more time here on Tuned, seeing MusiCares clients, because that's really, I'm finding that's my real joy and passion is to just talk to people and educate you.
That's awesome. Love it. Laura, would you like to go next?
Sure. I'm Laura Sinnott. I spent a lot of my professional life as an audio engineer, both doing production sound mixing for independent film and also doing audio post-production and sound design for film. And then I career changed in my mid-30s I knew somebody who career changed in their 50s to become a doctor. And so it was never too late to career change, or I actually should say career expanded into audiology. And it was pretty obvious that even though there's a lot of different facets of audiology that are intriguing and fascinating, and I convinced myself I would explore them, but at heart, I knew I wanted to work with people in the music industry. So I right now see patients through Tuned and MusiCares. And then I also see a lot of orchestral musicians. And that's pretty much where the bulk of my time is going to.
And I don't know if you mentioned you're located in upstate New York.
Oh, right. Yes. I am in the Mohawk Valley in upstate New York, and I head down to New York City pretty regularly.
Awesome. Thanks. Frank.
I'm Frank Warninger. I'm an audiologist in Philadelphia area. I run a program out here called Earmark Hearing Conservation, and I kind of have the same story there as Laura. It kind of started in audio engineering, production of live sound, and studio work, and then decided to find a different career path, and led me to essentially working in the same field, or the same rooms, just kind of having a different hat on. So I really enjoy my work with all the musicians that I see here in person, but recently through Tune, this has been incredible to be able to see these MusiCares folks doing telehealth and bring the service to them in a different way. So I'm loving it.
Awesome. Thanks, Frank. Yeah, it is pretty cool. We have on this panel today Lisa, who is one of the original music audiologists. We have 2 audio engineers. I'm a former touring musician, and Shannon is one of the coolest concert goers I know. Even though she's a musician herself, I don't know anyone who does it up to go support live music like Shannon does. I just want to throw that out there because people, I think, don't often know that about Shannon. But one of the coolest concert goers I've ever met. So I want to get into a discussion here. I have made a list of questions. We might not get to them all. But I just wanted to start with an overview of the partnership and what you thought before you really got into it. So you've all been part of this partnership with MusiCares since the beginning. And before you started conducting these appointments with MusiCares members, what assumptions did you have, and have they been confirmed or challenged? And I'll throw one out there. I think when this partnership started, we thought, we might get a lot of older music industry professionals who have hearing loss and who are looking for certain things. However, I would say the past year of appointments has proven that to not be true. We're largely seeing people in the range of maybe age 25 to 44, I think is what the data is showing. Many people to learn about how to protect their hearing. So that's one assumption I have seen totally challenged. And I don't know if there is anything in particular you have noticed, but throw it out there.
I didn't really know what to expect, but I just figured it would be similar to the way it is when somebody comes to see me in one of my offices. It's like, how different could it be? And it's really kind of confirmed that. I think it's very similar. The difference now is I have time to talk to people. So most people, if they're coming to see a music audiologist, be it for earplugs or in-ear monitors or hearing evaluation, the fact that they're there, they usually have some form of motivation to be there. And I'm kind of finding that consistent with the people I see on the MusiCares platform. That
I think you're right. I couldn't agree more. They're not coming to get a certain set of in-ear monitors. Although we should mention at this point that every MusiCares member that has an appointment with a music audiologist is approved for certain things, like earplugs or maybe specialized in-ear monitors or hearing aids or management care. A lot of that can be covered, and they are covered. So that is worth mentioning. But Lisa, I couldn't agree with you more. It's so easy with telehealth to just jump into a conversation, and it's so nice to have time where people can actually have their questions answered. It's not 10 minutes backstage somewhere. Oh, can you tell me about whatever really quickly? We can sit down and really dive into these questions, especially about hearing conservation. It is so cool.
Absolutely. And I find that most people are eager if they're seeking it out. But I've also, that said, there are people who will come on and they're, what concerns or what do you want to talk about? And they'll say, I'm just really, I don't know, I'm just looking for some good earplugs. They don't even know what to ask. They don't know what they're after. They got this notice that they can talk to a music audiologist. I don't think some people know what that even means themselves. And so 45 minutes later, I'm like, okay, we got to kind of start wrapping things up. Like, oh my God, I had no idea. I didn't even know what to ask or what to think about or what to say when I came on here. But I just had no idea there was so much to be discussed and to learn. And that's kind of, that's really rewarding when that happens. Some people have different motivation, but once they come out of an appointment, most of them, I think, had no idea how much there was to learn.
I'm just going to piggyback on Lisa and say it's funny because I had the same reaction, but from the opposite mindset when you were saying an in-person versus telehealth, how different could it be? And you found out that they weren't so different in terms of the quality of the appointment. My mindset was, I'm not sure I can replicate the level of care and connection through a computer screen that I can with my real life appointments. And I have been blown away by how quickly I'm connecting with my MusiCares patients and how much I'm actually enjoying the appointments. And, I just had one yesterday where for like 20 minutes after the session was over, I was still like smiling and happy by how well it went and how motivated and enthusiastic the musician was and how excited she was to refer all of her friends to the platform too, all of her music friends, of course. So I think that's been my biggest preconceived concern and notion that's been debunked, which is I'm able to connect with my MusiCares patients just as well as my in-person patients.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. It's been, because I've been doing telehealth for about 5 years with tinnitus patients before this. So when Heather started talking about this years ago and ramping this up, I just knew that it was going to be a high amount of appreciation from the attendees, the patients, the clients, whatever you want to call, folks who decide to sign up and join us for the visits. And that's been, so 100% consistent. Yeah, it's been amazing.
Yeah, ditto to all of that. And instead of repeating those sentiments, as a very nerdy technical audio engineer, I was wondering what the hearing screenings, what that experience would be like. Because when you are in person, you do this test and it's very reliable and everything is calibrated. And through telehealth, that is really where the new frontier is. How do we try to assess somebody's hearing thresholds or the softest sounds that they can hear? Or how do we tell them, oh, you're okay, you're not okay, or this or that? And I think that Tuned did such a great job developing a multi-part hearing screener. And I think this is a very confusing topic, but a health screener is something that basically says, okay, you pass a screener or you refer a screener. And we have 2 screeners on the platform, and we have a very extensive questionnaire. So between all of the parts of the screener that we have, I find that it's enough. And in a way, because you can't I see a lot of audio engineers as well, and audio engineers love to go and pick apart their hearing threshold test results. And because we can't really do that, I think it's a good thing because you can focus more on the hearing health aspects that you can take action on rather than getting hung up on like, oh my gosh, my 4K threshold is 30 dB. That means I have 5 decibels of hearing loss. How is that going to change everything? So that part of it, again, before we started the appointments, I was a little nervous, but it kind of ends up being a good thing, in my opinion.
What an excellent point. Excellent point.
And yet I just had that exact conversation with somebody this morning. Nope, 3 decibel difference between the two. Don't worry about it. Let's move on.
Exactly.
I love it. I couldn't agree more with that. I think you can really sort of focus on that holistic care when you're not in the weeds of the test results. And that's not to say we don't refer people. You know, there are people we see where we look at the screener and we look at it with a critical eye and we say, okay, I think you need to go get a diagnostic test done. And that's a nice thing too. We can go back to MusiCares and say this person needs to be seen, and they make it happen, which is really cool. So speaking of these stories of audio engineers and how people react, and, you know, we all have our favorite types of patients. Now, don't give away any patient identifiers, obviously. We all need to remain HIPAA compliant. But do you have a favorite story or encounter from a MusiCares patient you've seen on Tuned to share? And I will quickly tell mine. And you would think mine would be some pull at your heartstrings, whatever, but it's not. I saw this like 20-year-old touring tech, who was so excited about this appointment, but could not get a signal, didn't have Wi-Fi and couldn't get a signal. And we were in every room of the house. We were on the front steps of the house. We walked down the street together on our appointment and we made it work. And it was just so fun because this person was so appreciative, so excited, did not want to miss any bit of information. And we just made it happen. And that is also something I love about telehealth, that no matter where someone is on the road in the music industry, and even if they have to walk around for an hour during the appointment to find a signal, healthcare can still happen. So that's my personal favorite of what I've seen so far. What about you guys?
I just had to interject my patient this morning. He's like, oh, hold on. I've got to go let my dog out to go pee-pee. So we were talking a little while his adorable pit bull was doing her business.
I had two patients on MusiCares who both, because of our level of conversation, I asked them to come and be guests on my podcast because they were just such interesting people, and the way they talked about this was, really refreshing. But my favorite one, when you sent these questions around ahead of time, I got to think about it for a second. It was a guy who joined. He was in California, probably not too far from you, Lisa. Out on the beach, and he joined on his phone, just sitting on like some rocks on the beach. And he said that he's been so stressed out with the idea of going in and having somebody actually look at his hearing and like talk to him that he has not gone to a doctor. And so he said, if I didn't get to join in like this kind of a setting on my own terms, then I probably wouldn't be even having this conversation.
My story is about a patient that I saw on Tuned who has been in an orchestra for over 20 years. And this was the first time he was ever able to access hearing health services, which surprised me, but that's exactly why we developed this partnership between MusiCares and Tuned. But the reason that appointment stuck out to me was he is also involved in his orchestra's union. So he was being doubling down, getting information for himself as a musician, but also wondering what advice he should bring to his union for trying to get hearing health coverage for all of his coworkers too. So that was a really fun appointment because I could lay down all these general recommendations as well as really tailor his own listening need recommendations too. So we'll see. Hopefully he can help us bring hearing health to the masses. And if not, they can all see us on Tuned too.
Yeah, and that's so cool, isn't it? When you finish an appointment and so many people are, oh my gosh, like Lisa said earlier, I didn't know, I had no idea that there was so much to learn. And then they realize that their ears are their main tool. And then they're like, oh my gosh, all my friends need to do this. All my coworkers need to do this. Why aren't we all doing this every year? And it's really spreading the word like wildfire. So Shannon, I think that's a really cool story. It's perfect. Lisa, do you have a story?
Well, mine's kind of silly in a way, but it's something I got a kick out of. I think I misinterpreted the question when I thought about it. That happens sometimes. And definitely I was thinking about the times you've talked to people with, we talk to people in their vans and their cars. I almost got car sick one day because somebody was in the back of the car and it's going like this, and I have a little vestibular problem myself, and I'm going, whoo, okay. Anyway, what I thought about when I was thinking about this was just a funny little story to me, and maybe to audiologists, maybe not to other people. You may need to cut this out, Frank. But I was talking to this guy one day. I have to preface this by saying I usually cover anatomy, at least basic anatomy, and the parts of the ear and what happens in each section. But we hadn't gotten to that. But at some point in our conversation, we were talking about hair cell damage, and I was explaining that when those tiny little hairs are damaged, they can't be repaired, they can't be replaced. And then, we talked about other things, and at the end of the consultation, I said, do you have any, final questions or, anything we didn't cover that you want to know? And he said, well, I'm wondering, is it okay to keep using my ear hair trimmer? He totally misunderstood what we were talking about. When I said those tiny little hairs.
You don't want to ruin those hair cells.
That's hilarious.
He said, can I keep using my ear hair trimmer? And I was relieved that he asked, because it showed me that, sometimes we make mistakes too as the practitioners here. And I'm very careful now when I have that conversation to make sure that before I talk about that, I've explained where different things happen in different parts of the ear. And I encouraged him to, by all means, continue using that
Please.
ear hair trimmer.
For the sake of society.
Oh my
At
gosh.
large.
That's
It's
beautiful,
funny
Lisa.
though, like the more specialized you are and the more you do this, sometimes you forget to take it back to basics. And when you say hair cell, it makes perfect sense that someone would think it's the hair in their ear canal.
I had said hair, tiny little hairs, just because I was trying to break it down. I had said hair cell at some point, but then when I was breaking it down, I'm like, there's tiny little hairs. And he's like,
Oh, geez.
It's so funny, Lisa, because I've actually had that experience a few times, to the point where I actually just say sensory cells. They're called hair cells, but they're sensory cells. And I actually have sort of moved away from using the proper term of hair cells for that exact reason.
see, we're all
need a
still
new
learning. We're still learning.
Although it's probably a good idea to talk about trimming your ear hairs, because earwax could definitely get caught in overgrowth of
That's a whole conversation about,
Thick hair could mess up isolation within your monitors, or any kind of stuff.
yeah.
It's another discussion.
Yes.
Yeah,
It might
We'll
be
have to
one
add
of the
that to
only
next one.
downsides. It might be only one of the few downsides to telepractice is I don't get to see how much hair somebody has in their ear canal.
Exactly.
It's okay with me to not see that. So I was thinking, as a manager of this audiologic side of this program, I have the unique view of being able to see all the data that comes in. So when someone fills out a questionnaire, I can download that, de-identify, look at all the answers, and then do some statistics and things. And I have started seeing some trends, some commonalities. And I wanted you guys to mention what you've seen. But what I've seen on the questionnaire side is something really interesting. Many people state that they specifically want to prevent tinnitus, which is ringing in the ears or other sounds in the ears. And I did not expect that at all. I thought people might say, well, I want to prevent hearing loss. I want to be able to play forever. Or I thought people might say, what they want to address is existing hearing loss or something like that. But it seems to me that we're seeing a theme of musicians being terrified of tinnitus, at least on the questionnaires they're filling out. What have you guys been seeing in terms of appointments? Any trends?
Well, I would say I completely agree with that. Tinnitus, and then when we offer other things that they could be experiencing, the hyperacusis and pitch perception problems. So there's that. But I find once I actually get into the consultation, I'd say majority of people I talk with are, at least initially, mostly looking for some really good earplugs that will protect them and sound good. That's been, I don't know if it's a trend, but that's something that typically comes up in a conversation.
Yeah, I have seen that too. And you know what that says to me? There's a lot of miseducation maybe around hearing protection, that so much of the music industry is just sees a bunch of marketing. You know, they might get an earplug at a trade show. They don't really know what they're looking for. They're not sure what decibel level of attenuation they need. And so being able to meet with one of us and talk through all of that is often so relieving for many people that they feel like, okay, now I finally have some information. Because when they call a company and try to ask, of course, you know, again, if they meet someone at a trade show, they're going to be selling earplugs. But with all of us being unbiased and we can really give our opinion, it is fascinating to just realize how little is known about hearing protection in the music community.
Completely.
Absolutely. And then, I mean, how people, oh, well, if I'm a vocalist, I'm a violinist, so I probably need a special kind of earplug. And it's understandable because that is popular marketing and that's what everybody sees. And so they assume that that what instrument they play may determine the type of earplug that they need. And that's just completely false. So I totally agree. People don't know a lot about the specifics of earplugs. You know, for me, my trend has been more people saying, like actually typing out or speaking this. My ears are my most important part of my body. I need to know, like, what things can I do to make sure I can maintain and preserve my hearing as long as possible. I think, though, that there might be a skew with the patients that I see, or the clients that I see, again, whatever we're calling them, that we all have these little intro videos. So if people watch mine, they'll know I have a background in audio engineering. So I think I do tend to get more audio engineers than maybe other audiologists on the platform get. But the other thing is, I also will get a lot of people interested in practices like mindfulness, because I talk about that in my video as well. So it's pretty cool, because the way that Tuned and MusiCares has set this up is, if you want, you can watch these super quick videos on all the providers. And I think that works out really well, because it's just like this matching thing that happens where you just like, does it happen to you guys where within 2 seconds you just know
100%.
that this is someone like you could have been friends with for 20 years?
Yep. 100%.
Yes. Actually, I had one person choose me because I have done work with orchestras in the past, and I nerded out, and I made sure I wore that day a t-shirt from this person's orchestra because I had one. And it was just the coolest moment. I got to fangirl for a second, which I don't usually do. You guys know me, but I was like, I've seen you guys play. You're the best. And it is cool when they choose you for a certain reason, and then you really feel satisfied that you can fulfill their needs because you are hyper specialized in that one area.
Yeah.
And that's a really cool feeling.
Yeah. And again, another benefit of telehealth.
And this hasn't been a huge trend of mine, but I did notice along those lines, I had this has now happened 3 times where a manager scheduled an appointment with me, not because they had concerns about their own ears, but because they manage several bands that are based on the East Coast, and they wanted all of their band members to come through. So they started with themselves, and I'm like, I love this trend. Let's keep that going.
That is wonderful. And that's something I have noticed in the past 2 years that I never experienced before. But a manager making an appointment to get information to pass on. And I just think it is so forward thinking and so cool.
It makes sense. You got to take care of your artist. Otherwise, they're going to stop doing the art that you're making money off of. So the manager's got a real good vested interest in keeping that person's career going in a healthy manner.
It's
Exactly.
So true.
I've come up with a term for people who do that in their appointments. I've called them hearing health ambassadors. And so when I figure out that that's what they're doing, I was like, great, we need more hearing health ambassadors to bring this information to your local musicians. So something that I've started saying is, it's my goal to take care of you today during your appointment because this is your time. But my hope is that you'll leave feeling so educated and confident in your education that you can be a hearing health ambassador for everyone else too.
Love
Right
it.
on.
That is pretty cool.
That's wonderful.
That's awesome, guys. Laura touched on something, which was the videos that all of the audiologists make where people can see who we are, what our specialties are, if they feel like they click with us. I think that's so important as a patient. I mean, I know I've gone to see providers and I think, boy, I wish I would have seen somebody else. I feel like they don't get me or we just don't click for some reason. One of the really beautiful things about this partnership with MusiCares is the variety of audiologists and that each patient gets to choose, whoever works for them. In a word, one word, how would you describe your appointment style? Mine is overeducation. TMI appointments in terms of
Well, that was going to be mine.
It's like you guys were trained by the same people.
I know, right? It's like Heather was my preceptor when I was a student at Northwestern.
We can have the same word. It's okay. We probably all could use that word, but do you guys have any extras you want to throw in there?
Mine is passionate because I noticed that people keep telling me, thank you for how passionate you are. And I don't actually think that's always a positive because passionate can be emotional. So sometimes I think I need to rein that in a little bit, but yeah, I do the education with a lot of passion for better or for worse.
I think it's a good thing.
I like the overeducation. This would speak to my age and experience. I think, in a word, my style is actually not very sexy, but I'd say maternal. Teach
like a
my
hug.
children well.
Oh,
Oh, I like that so much.
I like that too. That makes me want to see you for an appointment, Lisa. I want a hearing health.
I was just going to say the same thing, Heather. I'm like, when are you free next week? I can't put this in one word because it's two, unless you hyphenate it, but laid back. I guess that's my style. I just kind of go with the flow. I mean, this, you guys know me well, but every patient seems to have a different sort of agenda or question or need. So I try to just, follow their lead and follow the flow of which direction they want to go in. If they have 10 questions and they want to get it done in 10 minutes, we're out of here quick because they've got stuff to do. Sure. If you want to spend all 55 minutes talking about your amps and how to set them up correctly so that your ears don't blow out during rehearsal, I'm right there for you.
That's perfect.
Yeah, and like Lisa and Heather, I would say overeducation would be my first one, but also similar to Frank, I would say my appointments are more casual than I thought they were going to be, which is funny because I know in my video I'm very much by the book. We have an agenda here. And then I found when I actually get into my appointments, while the middle section, I do share my screen with the patient and we go through a PowerPoint where we lay down tons of basic facts and education. The beginning and the end is really like casual. It feels like we're just chatting over a cup of coffee. And I think it really takes the high stakes feeling out of it that this is my only chance to learn about my hearing. It's very casual and very comfortable, I'd say.
I think that's so nice. Going back to the story that Frank shared earlier about the man on the beach, it's just so nice to be relaxed with a provider and feel like you can discuss anything. I don't see as many patients as you guys do these days because I'm more on the management side. But one of the things I had started doing was saying at the start, tell me one thing that's not related to music or your ears. And it makes people laugh and try to think like, well, what other identity do I have? And it's just sort of like an icebreaker. And I found that was just a really nice way to start appointments. Might not be for everybody.
I would have such a hard time answering that question, Heather.
Like, what book are you reading right now or anything?
Go for it, Frank. Give it a try. Here, give it a try right now.
Tell us one thing, Frank.
Nina Krause's book on ears.
That doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
That is a great book, though. Are you talking about Of Sound Mind?
Yeah, it's great.
Yes, Nina Krause of Sound
It's a great
Mind.
book.
Everybody should go get it. I have linked that book in so many of my notes. So when someone sees an audiologist on Tuned through MusiCares, you have the appointment with us, but then you get a report at the end of what we talked about. And I often link that book and say, this is a good read. Just get it. It's perfect.
It's incredible.
I'm the same, Heather. And at the end of every single note in my template, I actually have the last paragraph is bonus content of Sound Mind by Dr. Nina Krause. So
Nice.
we're on the same page.
Smart.
That's lovely.
I'm gonna do that. That's a great idea.
I think it's really interesting to hear about all the different styles, even though we have similarities. Obviously, we all love to educate, but we all have different personalities. And just going back to how cool that is that someone can pick. They don't just have to say, well, this is the person that's down the street for me who I need to see really quick for ear impressions or something. They can develop a relationship with us, see us every year for an appointment, and hopefully stay with us for the rest of their career. And we can check in on them every year. So I really like that. One thing we have not mentioned is that when someone sees one of us, if they do happen to be someone who's struggling with a hearing disorder. So Lisa mentioned earlier something called hyperacusis. That's where you have decreased sound tolerance. We've already mentioned tinnitus a couple times. There are other disorders as well, such as pitch perception issues or distortion. We do have a disorder specialist. Nancy Gold currently is our specialist. And if someone sees one of us and they need more care, they get to meet with Nancy. And if they need more care beyond that, they're able to go back to MusiCares and state what they need and perhaps get a micro grant to cover management. A lot of what we've been talking about is just sort of this hearing conservation, meet us annually, this kind of thing, which is the bulk of the appointments. But for anyone listening thinking, oh, this might not be for me because I really need help with the ringing in my ears from 30 years of touring, or whatever, that help is available. And it is really, really cool that we can all do that for folks. So just to wrap up, I had one final question, and I thought it would be cool to just hear what we all thought about this. What would you tell a music industry professional who's debating pursuing a MusiCares hearing wellness appointment? So if someone said to you, I don't know if I should do this, is this for me? My response would just be, what do you have to lose? Why not? But what do you guys think? I mean, have you encountered this with people saying, gosh, I didn't know if I should do this? What do you tell them?
Well, Heather, that's the phrase that popped into my mind too. You've got nothing to lose, but then my brain immediately reframed it to you only have something to gain, because every single person that I've talked to has mentioned on their own some sort of takeaway that they've had, something that stood out to them. And I truly believe these appointments benefit everyone, no matter what they're coming to the table with. And the second thing that I would say is we're on your side. So I think a lot of the reason musicians are hesitant to seek out help from an audiologist is they're afraid of what their test results are going to be. They're afraid to be scolded. And we're on team your ears always. And that's why we've chosen to specialize as music audiologists. So we've got your ears and your back.
Oh, I love that. I don't think anybody can top that, Shannon. That was perfect.
No.
Well, I do have something to add. It's not as poetic, but I would tell people that it's okay if you're not a musician. People are confused about that. I've had a lot of people say, oh, but I'm not a musician. Or they'll say like, oh, I've kind of struggled to try to validate themselves. If you work in the music industry, even if you're not a musician, even if you're not an audio engineer, the qualifications are that you just have to have been working professionally in the music industry in any capacity. You can be a guitar tech. It doesn't matter if you work in the industry, in the music industry in any capacity. And along those lines, I think one of the coolest things about the patients I've seen is the diversity of the people I have seen. Musicians, of course, a lot of female audio engineers, which is awesome. I've seen music editors. I've seen people who run venues. And I recently, I kind of sort of have to change this in order to de-identify, but I saw an opera singer who is with a circuit bending band. I mean, you just get a crazy diverse amount of people in the industry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. Because, and I think people, especially outside of the industry, all of us have been in the music industry for so long that we take for granted that we know about the diversity. A lot of people on the outside think of the music industry as just their favorite band who's on stage, and they don't know all the people who are behind, making the show happen, or making their favorite album happen, or even the people who play down the street at their local coffee shop. All of it is the music industry. And I think that's a great point, Laura. I would like for the listeners or viewers to know that in order to see one of us or the other audiologists who are on the platform, they can reach out to MusiCares. So MusiCares.org is where you would go, and there's a section called Get Help. And even if you don't feel like you need help, but you want to have your ears screened and learn about how to protect yourself, you can reach out to MusiCares and see if you're eligible. And we really look forward to seeing you. And I can't thank all of you audiologists enough for doing this panel with me for Protect Your Hearing Month, which is October, the month we're now in.
And Heather, it's not said enough, but thank you for making this platform and making this available to the thousands of people we've seen. And you don't get nearly enough credit. It'll never end the amount of credit you deserve.
To say it's my pleasure is an understatement. It's a privilege to help serve this community. And I wish we had more time just to talk about MusiCares in general, but what a fantastic organization. And for those who don't know, it's not just audiology. They do so much. Mental health services, addiction services, all kinds of things. And so we are just one small part of what they're doing, and I'm thrilled that I can manage this side. So thank you all again. And for anyone listening, we will hopefully see you soon.
Cool.